In this episode of The Great American Cruise-In, I witnessed a genuine road beast, a 1966 Ford Mustang Coupe Pro Street that is turning heads at the Dover Rod Run Car Show. I'm Scott Hudeman, and I'm fascinated with classic cars. That's why I travel from car shows to cruise-ins to meet owners and learn about their passion for classic cars and the stories behind their amazing restorations. So join me as I go deep into this car show at the Dover Rod Run in Dover, Florida, to learn how a rusted-out disaster was transformed into a spectacular pro street road beast. One of the main reasons I love going to car shows and cruise-ins is to hear the stories behind these amazing car restorations and modifications. And the transformation story behind this beautiful Mustang Coupe is truly an inspiration for anyone wanting to restore a classic car. The 1966 Ford Mustang was originally equipped with a straight six-cylinder engine and a 3-speed transmission, providing adequate performance for its class at the time. With the powerful engines that are available today, pushing RPMs into the stratosphere, this Mustang was given a new lease on life with modern, high-performance power plant and drivetrain modifications. Running a 10-second quarter, the Mustang features a 302 Boss V8 with Cleveland 351 heads, two 4-barrel Holley 450 carburetors mounted on top of a tunnel ram. With a new frame and front end, as well as a seriously geared and shortened back end, this Mustang scorches the road with supersized rear tires running in tubbed-out wells. I caught up with owner Pete Wilkie to learn more about this Mustang Coupe and his passion for this beautiful car. Pete, as I look around this car show, there are countless number of muscle cars just about as far as you can see, but your Mustang clearly stands out from the rest. It's definitely, in my opinion, a road beast. So why did you choose this car for your restoration project?
My dad bought that new in '66. That was his everyday driver, 6-cylinder, 3-speed. We drove it everywhere. It was a great car, has a lot of family history. It finally broke to the point where my dad didn't want to fix it. So he stuffs it under the deck in Maryland, covers it with a tarp, and there she sits for 12 years. When I moved down here to Florida, my dad said, "Hey, do you want the Mustang?" He goes, "I'm not going to fix it." So we go, pull the cover off, we look at it. There wasn't much left, but there was still enough that, it makes you want to fix it. Let's face it, it's a Ford Mustang. How can you not want to restore it? So I take it, I bring it down here, I restore this car to what you see today. So it's the history of that car that makes it so special, not just how great I think it looks, but just the history of it. And it's a Mustang. Everybody loves to have a Mustang.
So this car is more than just an everyday barn rescue. It's a genuine family car that's been in your family for many years.
Yeah, a long time. And I even have a picture on my dash, which will show my dad in 1967 waxing it. And then a picture of him 50 years later at my house finishing the job. But it's the same man, the same car. So that's history that, you just can't find.
The bodywork on this car is immaculate. The classic Mustang lines are untouched. The trim looks like it was just installed, and in fact, your entire car looks like it just came from the showroom, albeit with a pro street attitude. And there's no doubt that the exterior work that you've done with this restoration is remarkable. How much effort did it take to turn rusted metal into the sparkling finish that we see here today?
We stripped it, primed it, fixed everything. I replaced some of the sheet metal. I tried not to replace too much because I wanted it to be as original. So, so we strip it down, we prime it up, and then, since I painted cars for a living, I was able to put a nice blue pearl paint job on it. So, and my whole point was I made a color. It's not a factory color. I made a color because I wanted it when it was in the shade or dark to look like that original navy blue that was on that car in '66, which I hope I've achieved. But since that color is a little bland, when the sun hits it and the pearls light up, then you can see, somebody's done something to it. So that was my goal. So hopefully I achieved that.
Well, I think you've achieved it and more. Video just can't reproduce the brilliance of this blue finish that's sparkling here in the Florida sun. But let's go back a bit to when this car had been sitting untouched for years. Your dad calls you up and says, "Get it out of here." What shape was it in when you began this restoration?
The body wasn't terrible. You know, the bottom of the doors were rusted, dents here and there, has some rust spots. But overall, fixable if you know how to restore cars. And since, I painted cars for a living, I was able to restore it. So that was what was good about it is the main heart of that car, the body, was there. So when I brought it down here, we finished, I would say gutting it, but basically we just tapped it with a hammer and the rest of the floor fell out. So when the floor was gone, we pulled the engine, we pulled the transmission, we put in a frame, welded a frame in to tubs. I had the 302 built, had a C4 built, had somebody short in the rear, guy down in Ruskin, put 48 gears in it, big fat tires. And then we just, from there, you just start calling CJ Pony or calling Summit Race and have them keep sending you parts as you can afford.
The restoration and modification work you've done with this Mustang is nothing short of remarkable. And I know you've attempted to keep the car as original as possible, but it's difficult to look past the tubs, the wide tires, the engine modifications, and think of this car as original.
And I know when you look at it, you see the roll bar and you see the tunnel ram and the tubs. But if you look past that, you'll see that the dash is all original Pony. The interior is all original Pony. I didn't cut the shock towers. I wanted to keep it as original as I could so that when you look at it, you could see it's the same car that my dad bought in '66. Not just a 10-second quarter-mile car, but just a car, I wanted my dad to have a piece of it too, so.
Looking at this massive power plant under the hood, I can clearly see that this can't be your father's original Mustang engine.
Nope, that's a new one because the original engine was a straight 6 with a 3-speed. And if anybody knows Ford Mustangs, they know that 3-speed used to break every 2,000 miles. But it had originally a 6-cylinder. So when I, of course, turned it into the V8, I had to gut the front end because the 6-cylinder front end suspension is different than the V8. So I had to buy all new front end V8 parts, which are beefier. So complete new engine, complete new front end suspension, new transmission, of course, new frame. The rear end's a 9-inch. The original one was just that little cheesy one for the 6-cylinder.
The engine configuration here is impressive, and I'm sure it makes a powerful statement everywhere that you show off the car. Do these two 450 Hollies sitting on a tunnel ram add to the performance of the 302 V8?
Yep. What we did is it's a 302 motor. It has Cleveland heads, 351 Cleveland heads, which makes it a boss, big cam and all that. What that is I have a tunnel ram. So I have two 450 Holly carburetors sitting on top of the tunnel ram. And people will say it's an overkill, and in some ways they're probably right because you can put one single carburetor that does that. But because that motor has such a high RPM, I shift that at 8,500, that tunnel ram does help for high end, which is when you have a little motor, you need RPM. So that's basically why I have that tunnel ram, to give me that high end, the RPM when I shift it. So two little 450 Hollies, almost the smallest carburetors you can put on it, which gives me more than enough fuel.
When you take possession of a car that's in such bad condition from years of neglect, you obviously have your work cut out for you. During this restoration journey, were there any challenges that you faced that stand out?
I'd have to say, finding parts for that car was easy. The advantage to a Mustang is that there's a lot of places that sell them. So a lot of people will tell you when they restore a car, I couldn't find this part, I couldn't find that part. For a Mustang, kind of like probably a Camaro, Chevelle, parts are out there. Finding it wasn't a problem. Some of the hard things is finding a good quality part, because there are companies that will make cheap knockoffs, and when you go to put them in, they just won't fit. So my dash is a perfect example. I replaced the dash net because the other one was no good. I had a choice to buy a knockoff for $100 or a Ford tooling for $300. I went with the Ford tooling because I wanted one that fit, and guess what? It slid right in like butter. Fit perfect. So I would have to say finding the parts isn't hard, but you still have to find good parts. That's the key.
You've obviously done much work to this car, and I'm naturally curious about the numbers involved with this level of restoration and modification. So what did you acquire it for? Nothing. How much did you put into it, and what do you think the street value is if you decided to sell it today?
The street value since mine's a '66 Coupe, now I have modified it a lot, which probably raises the price. Mine is a common year. So as far as the value on that car, since I got it for $0, you can probably pick those up maybe 15, 20 grand. Now, I've got well over that in it. So for me, my value on that car is probably up 30, 40 grand with my car. But because that car has been in the family since day one, there is no money I can actually put on that car. Even if somebody offered me more than it's worth, I'd have to say no just because of the history. And because of my dad gave me the car. So if he's listening, he told me, I'll give you this car with one rule. I don't care what you do to it, but don't sell it. I will not sell it. That case in point.
Your story is really interesting because this is a car that's been in your family since the beginning, and the work you've put into this build is nothing short of remarkable. With that experience, what advice can you offer to someone who's considering taking on a project of this magnitude?
Here's the thing. If you know how to work on cars, which will save you a boatload of money, then, like I said, it's always helpful to try to find car that it doesn't have to be in great shape, but it has to be manageable, but it has to be one you can get parts for. If you don't know how to work on cars, then you have to decide what your finances are. I mean, if you're a guy that can just take it to a place and say, finish it, cost isn't an option, you have no problems. If you're a guy that has a budget, then you also want to find cars that parts are readily available because that will make it cheaper for the build. If you're a guy, and I have a friend of mine, he doesn't know cars. He loves them, but he can't work on them. He doesn't know them, and that's fine. Go find one done, one that you just want to wax. You know what? There's nothing wrong with not building a car. If you enjoy cars, you could come to a show and enjoy them just like everybody else. So if you want to get into cars, and I'm going to tell you, I think it might be a dying breed of people, kids who don't want to get into cars. If you want to get into them, get one. Don't tire kick, buy it. That's the thing. Make your decision, because we're only going to get one trip on this earth. If you like cars, buy one, and just use those as your guidelines, your budget, what you can do, but get to the show with your car and enjoy it.
From neglected rust heap to powerful Pro Street muscle, the story of this Mustang's transformation is nothing short of remarkable. Car owners know the secret behind their passion. Restoring a car is more than just money, time, and sweat. Restoring requires vision, determination, and a master craftsman touch to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Make sure you check out Pete's incredible Ford Mustang and more on our YouTube channel and on social media, where we post the best of the best from car shows and cruise-ins. Just follow the social media links on our website at greatamericancruisein.com. And if you want to show off your amazing classic car on our website, send me an email with pictures and all of the juicy details. See the footer section of our homepage for more information. I want to thank you for spending your time with me, and I look forward to sharing another amazing classic car story on the Great American Cruise-In.